This is what the locals call a slide log. So, on those big rock slopes of ours, this thing came down and was covered. I don't know how this is going to go.
Right about there is, should cut a little bit in the center there.
Well, I mean, all we can do is take some weight off it, right?
Yeah.
So, Shay and I dug it out with the excavator. All that you see there was buried under about 20 feet of landslide rubble rock. Grew around rocks, so we decided not to try to cut it. So this is the only wood that's hard enough, I think, is right through here.
Not much.
I guess we'll see.
So we'll come through, come on, probably about 16.
Okay.
That'll get us down pretty close to it.
Prehistoric grub holes, huh?
Where is the stump part of it?
That's laying over there. There's a big rock that grew around. That's why I got cut off. What? I don't know. If it grew around one, it might have grown around one inside the center of it too. Each blade is $30. I think we might just be satisfied with whatever we get here. Out of water?
Yeah, we're out of water.
Okay. We're cutting with a mixture of, I don't know, 2 cups of alcohol stove fuel, a cup and a half of pine sol detergent soap, and a splash of diesel.
I had to do a bit of a voiceover here. There was no audio left to work with. The sawmill was a little too loud. So in case it hasn't come across, this is a ponderosa pine tree that Shay and I, dug out of an avalanche. The end we're cutting there was probably 25 feet under a rock scree slope. So a rock scree slope doesn't have a whole mess of dirt with it. It is just crushed rock. And that sort of protects and isolates the logs since they don't actually get a lot of moisture to them. Locally, they're known as slide logs, and they have really a tremendous grain pattern to them. What we're doing now is we're just squaring this one up. And Dad wanted to go a couple of inches or so a little deeper on that. We're just squaring it up so that we can cut it up for pine paneling. This is going to go for blue pine paneling. It actually doesn't have any real blue in it. It did not get infected by beetles, which carry the fungus. The blue is a fungus. If the beetles don't burrow into the tree, there is no blue in it. The tree was buried under rock. The beetles never got to it. So it is kind of an interesting deal all the way around. It's a fascinating log and was a real pain in the butt to cut.
Not much good.
So we want to roll it onto the flat and then just
That's what I think we'll do.
be ruthless with it and get.
Well, get down to.
Oh, get you? I gotta help.
No point in taking anything less than 12. Huh?
All right.
Even 12, probably.
There must have been a crack or pathway in the rock where the bugs could get to this section right here. The stump is full of them.
Huh?
Oh, it must have been some way these grubs could get to the buried part of the tree.
You think they were grubs or were they maybe ants?
Oh, I guess it could be an ant gallery. They'd love a buried tree.
Believe it or not, the surface you're looking at is not the outside of the tree. All of the sapwood, the wood nearest to the outside of the bark, that's all gone mush. Okay, take it back. That little section the saw is cutting underneath right now, that might be the actual outside of the tree. But the rest of this isn't. And that wood just rots away. And it is the heartwood, the center of the pines with all of the rest. Only the older, sicker pine trees actually get resinous like this. It turns out, on our land, given that weird glacial Lake Missoula bare rock structure, a lot of our pine trees are sickly and pumped full of resin. So it's not at all uncommon. And I got a video coming up in a little bit of a tree that was actually killed in the 1910 fires, the Big Burn, and yet we were able to salvage some wood from it.
So we got to get it into sizes, blanks, like this one right here.
If you've watched the channel for a while, you've seen our old mill here. It's a timber grizz. Company's no longer in business. It was built out of Troy, Montana, although I want to tell everybody it was built out of Libby. And no offense to the people of Troy or Libby, it probably doesn't matter one or the other. Nonetheless, it's no longer in business. It's what you would call a two-post mill. However, other than it being like a two-post wood miser, where both posts are on one side, it's on either side of the mill. The frame, however, has got 4 posts and the rolling carriage, so it's a little different. The way it cuts, unfortunately, is always putting the blade cutting into the bark. It would be much better if it clamped the other direction, because then when you roll the log, you're only cutting into fresh wood. But that would put all the clamping equipment on my side, not Dad's side. And the mill is clearly designed to make it easier to run from one side.
Come through,
Nonetheless,
cut this in half.
it has definitely
Well, we
paid
stood
for
up
itself
90.
over the years, especially cutting crazy wood like this. And we're getting a whole trailer load. There's Shay, my partner in crime. He gets really upset when I discard offcuts. If there's 6 inches, by God, he thinks we should use it. Nonetheless, what we're preparing here, like I said before, was some blue pine paneling. Again, this isn't blued. It never got infected. It never had the beetles because it was buried, but yeah, it's a weird, interesting, kind of different sort of log. You know, around here locally, again, they're known as slide logs. Around here locally, they're not cut like this, except for firewood. But man, I think they're wasting a really cool resource.
So now they'll be slabbed. Normally I would take and brush them 2 at a time and lay them on the stack there. These might just get put on covered in sawdust. Sawdust is harder to get off if you allow it to dry, and it invites a bunch more mold. A lot of unnecessary moisture and surface area. Cool. It's cool, but you can see why it's not much good. They don't make this saw anymore, so there's no point in calling it. It's model. It's the 41 machine of the second iteration. Anyway, it's a pretty good machine. Anyways, that's the process. This one's got a bunch of red in it, bud. I can't hear you, I'm afraid.
My question is, why do I bother brushing off if more keep coming?
That's the job. What you don't get done, I'll do. Remember that sweet little boy who used to sit in a place in my workshop and scream as he messed with wood? He was dribbling there. the colors we got out of it. It's pretty cool, I think. Pretty darn cool. We've loaded up the bunks, although I think we're done for today. It's Sunday. I still got to load, strap, drive home, and then go back to work. But yeah, it's a nice color. This will be maybe living room ceiling. It's hard to tell right yet, but pretty cool. Not quite sunken treasure, but interesting. Interesting nonetheless. Slide logs. That's what the locals call them. Slide logs.